Shalom to the whole fleet elect. We're getting on 144,000. Shalom. Alright, this is just being quick. Transit talk. Quick transit lesson. Right. This is just going into, that better days are ahead. Right. Us, especially your so-called black man in today's society, right? We got it the hardest out of any people, out of any nation on the face of the earth, right? And yesterday before camp, just me and the brother Barack Ashar, right? And, every time we read each other, we see each other, right? Ask how each other day going, how the week been, things of that such, right? And I told him I'm just trying to maintain, just a different, just a different day, right? He was like, each day get harder, but we just continue to get stronger, right? Man, that's exactly right, but that's the Lord just prepared us for what's to come, right? We've been prepared spiritually, to be able to endure the thing that we have to soon go through, right? You got the Jacob's trouble, the persecution, the arrow of temptation, right? So forth and so forth, right? But these are the things that's part of endurance, right? Because, hey, if it weren't no endurance or nothing to endure, then guess what? Everybody will be saved, right? The Lord won't just come back for that 1/3. He'll come back for 2/3 or the whole bunch, right? But instead, the Lord set out for certain ones to be able to get through that straight gate, right? That STRAIT, right? That straight and gate meaning that dangerous or that difficult, gate in a sense, right? Because it's not meant for everybody to, go through that. Because while you have some brothers going to fall out, some brothers just straight up saying they ain't gonna go through it, right? Like you say, broad is the gate and straight is the way, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, right? Roughly paraphrasing, right? And we're gonna see a lot of people going through that broad gate because why? That's the easy gate. That's the easy way out, right? Falling after the flesh, the lust of the flesh, right? Continue to be in wickedness, continue to be in darkness. That's the route people are going to go because why? They're chasing their dreams, right? They're chasing their lifestyle in this society. But we chasing our lifestyle in the next society, being what? The kingdom of heaven, right? So like that's why we're willing to go through that straight gate, right? That dangerous gate, though, that difficult task, because why? We're willing to get into the kingdom of heaven, man. Like he speaks about in 2nd Ezra, 7th chapter, what he speaks about, right? How it's going to be difficult to get into the kingdom of heaven, but these are things that we have to go through to be able to inherit it, right? And what he says, that's Israel's portions, right? But he says, how can a man inherit that which is good, right? Roughly paraphrasing, how can a man inherit that which is good if he don't go through the dangers that's set before it, right? Roughly paraphrasing, going something in that term, right? But we have to go through that danger that's set out before us, right? You're gonna have a lot of brothers in the kingdom that's gonna have mighty stories, right? Saying, hey, they had to go through this, they had to go through that, and that was right under the guillotine when Yahushua came back. Just different stories to tell, man. They're gonna be mighty and great stories, right? Because those gonna be ultimately those the ones that came from the good ground, right? Speaking about the parable in Matthew the 13th chapter, right? Where you gonna have some, right, that's not gonna make it, that got choked up by the word, or was offended by persecution or the tribulations, or whatever the case may be, right? Temptation or whatever, right? So these are the things that we have to go through, man. Because we're living in the times of perilous. We're living in these perilous times, man. There were perilous ones into dangerous times, right? Like it speaks about, I believe that's 2 Timothy, the 4th chapter, if not the 3rd chapter, right? believe it's the third chapter, if I'm mistaken. Right, but we're in the times of these perilous times, man. You know, and the Lord is going to continue, you know, to better us through the Spirit, you know, and stronger, and, you know, continue to make us stronger. The thing that it says for, you know, for our well-being, right? And, you know, hey, we just have to endure, right? Matthew the 24th chapter, he say, he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved, right? So, you know, we have to endure these things, man. That's the only way we're going to be able to inherit the kingdom of heaven, you know? Hey, you know, you go through and read the 7th chapter, man. He tell you how it is, man. How narrow the path is, you know, how fire on one side and deep water on the next, right? You know, but they say it's a field, a broad field, you know, or I think he mentioned the sea or something like that, right? But he's saying like it's all of good things, but a man can't inherit that field or inherit that, you know, obviously that field first in the kingdom of heaven, or that sea, right? A man can't inherit that which is good if you don't go out and endure the things that's, you know, set out before that, right? Which is that those obstacles, right? So like you know, the speech ain't that great, right? But you know, the dangers that set out before, it's just like if you play the game and you know you play the story mode, you know, you gotta go through the missions. If you just find by the mission, you're like, what the hell? Like, what fun is this, right? But you gotta, you know, you got those missions where you come to, and you like, well, I'm finna quit. Like, but it's so hard that you can't even pass the shit. You know, then you get frustrated and you know you get irritated and shit. But then eventually, what you do, you pass the mission, man. You know, and that's our whole goal is to pass the mission. You know, is to pass the test, right? Because we don't have nothing to lose. We know what's to come, right? We know we have to. We may have to lay our life down for the truth, right? For Yahweh, Shah. We know these things, man. So therefore, we're not worried, right? We're not worried. Hey, we want these things. The Lord say, "Blessed are thee that are persecuted for my name, for my sake." Right? We're from paraphrase. It's in Matthew, the 6th chapter, or it's in the book of John. I can't remember. Right? But the Lord told us to rejoice and be exceedingly glad, man, when these things shall come upon you. Right? Because you know, even like speaks about the Sirach, the 2nd chapter. Right? The Lord tell you to take cheerfully. You know, when you are brought to a low state. You know, because things are not going to get easy. The closer we get to the end, the things are only going to continue to get harder, right? Because Satan's going to be attacking you at each and every way, right? Trying to knock you off your course, trying to knock you off your path, right? Not only that, you're going to have stronger demons, right? So therefore, the Lord has to stronger us for us to be able to endure. You see how the Lord said he had to show the days for the elect saints, right? Because not, shit, ain't nobody going to peel up to fucking, to survive. Because Esau, you don't go fucking destroy every damn body, man. You know? So these trials and tribulations, these afflictions, these, you know, sufferings, you know, the sacrifices, all this, hey, we have to endure these things, man. It's for a better cause, right? We gotta continue to look at the bigger picture. Continue to, you know, set our affections on things above, not on things on this earth. You know, we're for paraphrasing Colossians 3:2, right? But these are the things that we have to endure, man. You know, hey, better days are ahead for sure. And that's what endure this, guess what? Hey, Lord willing, we you know, other elect and on the chariot with the house shot, we make it return. Watch this place be destroyed, man. Right, we see the signs. You would be an idiot. You would be an idiot, you know, to Allah. The Lord's elect. Right? And also, I wanted to mention this dream that I had yesterday. Right? And I'll get it real quick before I pull over and grab a little breakfast. Also, gonna get my lunch for the day too. Right? But anyways, this dream I had went to a family member house, and he was basically like, "Hey, let's go to this basketball game, right? Basically like an AAU tournament. Brothers know anything about that? It's like a people from different states, etc. Called it's a basketball tournament, right, for the weekend. And I'm like, okay, cool. We ain't doing nothing else. Yeah, that's fine, right? We're watching like one of the top, 10th graders girl basketball play. So I'm like, okay, that's cool, right? So we get to the gym, right? The game going on. The game gets 76 to 77. 1.8 seconds left, and the girl gets it, right? At half, she gets it. She inbound the ball at the half, right? And she's standing there. It's literally 0.8 seconds left. She finally shoots it from half court. It hit the backboard, hit the rim, and then bounced out, right? As soon as the ball bounced out, mind you, the gym is packed. As soon as the ball bounced out, all the players on the court disappeared, and everybody on the sidelines went into a deep sleep, and all the lights had shut out, like a power outage or something like that. And everybody on the side fell into a deep sleep, but me. I was the only one that stayed awoke, right? And I remember looking around like what the hell, and it kind of spooked me, right? And then I remember I had found my cousin, right? And he was asleep, and I remember I was like getting emotional, not in the sense where like finna cry or something like that, but like a anger and betrayal. I was like, man, you weird as hell for taking me to that gym. Like, bro, you weird as hell, right? And then after that, he was like, what you talking about? Like, he was like, I didn't know that was gonna happen. Like, as soon as he said that, I woke up, right? And I was like, what the hell? Like, and I was just, meditating on it, right? Meditating on it. And what I got from it is that since I have this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, being of that light, and everybody else, being of the darkness, right? Coach darkness, how it speaks about it, Isaiah, right? Coach darkness to people, right? I feel like the only reason I stayed up because I had this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, right? I had this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, right? And Salakia. All right, Salakia, man. Had to grab some little breakfast. Right, but anyways, as I was saying, right, as I was meditating on a dream, right, me having this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, being ultimately the light of this world, right, through Yahweh Hashem Yahweh, and the rest of this world being in that deep sleep, right, not having this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. I feel like that was the only reason that I was able to stay awoke when everybody else fell into a deep sleep, right? And also seeing it as when the power went out and there was no lights or nothing on, and the only reason I was still able to see because it was still the sun was still out just a tad bit, right? So in gyms and things like that such, you still have light able to come through right through the windows, right? So also feel like there's symbolic or something like that from this war that's going on, right? Because I ran, with this oil and things of that such, without oil, oil is one of the main things that keep these energy plants and things of that such, going, right? So without this oil and, them trying to attack, energy, or affect our energy, power, and things that says, ultimately, I feel like that was a sign of a blackout coming, right? Not being able to see and trying to steal in that sense, right? They're trying to steal your generator, steal your life, steal whatever resource that you have that can benefit them, right? But that's just what I got from it, watching me, through the spirit of Yahweh, watching me have a shot, right? And I also had a dream a week ago. I told the brothers about, right, about me and the brother in the Hummer had got basically sent to a drought, right? Sent to the drought. But they ain't pick us up from our home, nothing like that. It was in a damn building. Now I don't know if this building was a concentration camp or what, right? But I just know they picked us up from a fucking helicopter, right? We left out this damn big ass building. They picked us up in a helicopter, gave us an M14 and fucking grenades, gave us a suit. And I remember, like, man, hell no. Like, and I seen familiar faces too. Like, not brothers in the truth, but like, friends I grew up with, or friends I went to college with, right? But anyways, I'm like, man, hell no. I remember complaining, like, man, hell no, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, I don't want to do this shit. I'm going off, like, man, hell no. Right then, ultimately, we get to like this house, and I'm in there with different soldiers, probably like 8 to 10 of us, everybody talking and shit like that. And I'm like, bro, who they got y'all fighting up against, right? I'm not even including myself in this shit. I'm like, yo, who they got y'all fighting up against? And they were like, Japan, right? They were like, Japan, And I was like, yeah, instantly when they said that, Japan, they either said Japan or Iran. It's a great thing about it, but, I feel like they said Japan. As soon as they said that, it felt like Vietnam, right? And because of the old ass gun and things of that such too. But ultimately, I finished the dream out. But anyways, right? So on like the second day, it was on the way to the training base or whatever the case may be, and it was 4 of us in the cart, like in the little, the little soldier's cart. Like 4 seats total. No, but this one had a roof on it, right? And on the way to the training camp, the driver took a different route, like basically escaping, right, in a sense. So when he did that, he like that instantly knew that, hey, we weren't trying to go to the camp, right? So also this shit turned into a fucking high speed, right? And and I remember going down the hill. You go down the hill, but not on the road, so everything bumping and shit. And I remember grabbing the the little handle up top, and trying to push myself up against the seats so I don't fucking fly the damn car, right? And then I just took that as, and I remember, and after that I had woke up, right? But I took that, like, and I remember waking up, like, feeling discouraged, like, fuck no, like, I'm not, getting sent out to fucking fight over for a fucking weak ass country that I damn sure don't claim right now. And I'm definitely not finna fight up against y'all. I'll see y'all shot when the times come, right? But anyways, I felt a little discouraged. Oh yeah, that's how I just said. I just felt a little discouraged. But then again, at the end, the Lord had made a way for us to escape through that driver, ultimately taking a different route, and also trying to get us, far away, or try to get us, gone in a sense, right? And so we're gonna have to fight for ultimately fucking America, right? But anyway, there was just 2 dreams that I had, because they were talking about having a drought, in December, right, 2026. And I was like, yeah, that's crazy. I have a dream literally a week ago about the fucking drought. So that shit was crazy, man. Lord willing, I'm not at that drought. If I tell her, y'all can throw your own